Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I just have a really quick little story here to tell you about how I broke the rules and why I broke the rules. But before I can do that, I need to give you a little bit of a backstory so that you will kind of have the whole picture. So several weeks ago, back in June, I put 6 eggs in my incubator. I candled all those eggs. They looked good when I put them in there. And I put them in one weekend, and I told myself, you know, I'll come back and write down the date so I don't forget the date. Well, don't do that. That was mistake number 1. Don't forget to write down the date. So a few weeks later, I'm thinking it's got to be close to the time for these eggs to be ready. So I better go ahead and put them on lockdown, because my incubator rotates like this, and I just thought it would be a disaster if eggs started trying to hatch when their whole world is doing this. So I went ahead and I candled my eggs. They all looked good, put them on lockdown, and then I waited. And I waited a whole week. So obviously I was a whole week early. I should have written down that date. So that was kind of the first disaster, is that now my eggs have been sitting there not being turned for a whole week. But sure enough, after a week, started getting some hatching. So I had 3 of the eggs hatched, and they did really well. I moved them out of the incubator, put them into the little brooder that I had set up, and there were still 3 eggs in there. And I always give my eggs a few days after, the majority hatch. I don't just rush in and pull them out. I give them a few days to see if I'm going to have any stragglers that are going to come along and hatch. So I did that. I just left them in the incubator, didn't fool with them, just left them alone. Well, after about 3 days, no hatch, I decided, okay, obviously they're not going to hatch. So I just unplugged my incubator and turned it off. And it was at night, and I said, well, in the morning I'll get up and I'll get the eggs out of there and I'll do away with them. So the next morning, it was a busy morning. I had things to do, so I didn't do it early. But somewhere like around mid-morning, I decided to go get the eggs out and clean the incubator out and all of that good stuff. Well, I pick up an egg and it chirps at me. And I look at this egg, and it's not peeped, it's not anything. There's one little hairline crack where it looks like it tried to, peck out a little bit, but it didn't even raise the shell. So there was really nothing there except for that little crack. And I'm holding this egg that has now been sitting in my incubator without any heat, for, probably 15 hours at least, probably longer than that, like all night and half of the next day. It's been in the incubator with no heat. So I thought, what am I going to do? Okay, so I put it back down, and I picked up the other 2, and nothing. Like, I listened carefully, nothing. So I went ahead and put them out, picked that one up again. It chirped at me again. I called my daughter and I said, this little egg is chirping at me. It's saying, help me, help me. Like, it's stuck in there and it can't get out. Help me, help me. And so I decided, okay, it's breaking the rules. It's breaking the rules to help a chick get out of the egg. If you do it, the chances are, something's going to be wrong with it. It's not going to live, just all of the stuff. It's just, you're not supposed to do it. But this one obviously couldn't get out. So I'm thinking, what's the problem? Is it stuck in there because, they haven't been being turned for the last week when they should have been being turned? What's going on with it? Why is it like this? So I decided that I would help it out of the egg, but I had company coming over, so I couldn't do it right then. I just had to put it back in the incubator and leave it in there again until after everybody left. I didn't want to be fooling with that. I didn't know how long the process was going to be. So hours later, now we're like mid-afternoon, probably like 3 or 4 o'clock. I went back, picked the egg up again, and sure enough, more chirping. So I went ahead and I got tweezers and started pulling the shell off a little bit, just right there where that little crack was at. And it went fine at first. I have some pictures that I'm going to show you where first I saw a little beak, and then I saw a little eye, and it was just right there looking at me, chirping when I was pulling the shell off. And then I saw blood. Not a good sign. So there was still blood vessels and blood going through the vessels in that membrane that's around the shell. So I kind of panicked, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna just put it back in there and let that hopefully go ahead and go where it needs to be. So I just gave it a good mist with a mist bottle so that it wouldn't get too dried out, and stuck it back in the incubator. Waited about an hour or maybe a little longer, came back, the blood was gone. So I proceeded to start taking more of the shell off. And it really never, like I thought it's gonna try to get out. Well, it really didn't until I got like almost half of the complete shell off, and then it did start. So I laid it back in the incubator and let it come out on its own. When it came out, it looked so pitiful and puny, like I thought, I don't think this thing's gonna make it, but it did. So let me show you what we have. Okay, so here's my little chick today. It's 2 weeks, it's actually 2 weeks old and 2 days when I'm making this video. And yeah, I mean, it's doing good. No problems, seems to be healthy. I really didn't expect it to live because, like I said, you know, it's really breaking the rules whenever you do that. But it appears to be a healthy little chick. So anyway, I wanted to share this story because I almost didn't do it because it's breaking the rules and you're not supposed to do it. You're supposed to let it come out on its own, or else, you know, it probably won't be healthy. But I knew it was going to die. I knew it was going to die if I left it in there. So I figured if I help it and it dies, it's not any worse off than if I just leave it in that shell and let it die. So that's why I decided to go ahead and help it. But I wanted to make the video because I want to encourage you to, you know, if you know the chick's not going to be able to get out on its own and you know it's going to die, don't be afraid to help it. Might be a good outcome if you help it. But you might know that it's not going to be a good outcome if you don't help it. So anyway, here's my little chick. Now, I really hope it's a hen and not a rooster because I don't need any more roosters. I have a horrible rooster story already. It's like I have a lot of roosters right now because of the hatchery sending me 12 when it was supposed to be 4. So I have a lot of roosters. So I'm hoping this one will be a hen so that it can live here with me for a very long time. But that's my story of breaking the rules. This is the outcome of the little rule breaking. And so that's it. So anyway, thank you for joining me today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you back again here next week.